The Starliner spacecraft has now spent over 60 days in space, far longer than the originally planned 8 days. This extended duration, over 6 times the expected period, raises concerns about the spacecraft's future.
Astronauts from Boeing Starliner are now awaiting a decision on when they can return home from space.
Boeing and NASA seem to be facing significant challenges in keeping the Starliner project on track. There are questions about whether Boeing might consider abandoning the project and how NASA is responding to the situation. After many weeks of troubleshooting and tests to address the problems with Boeing Starliner, a press conference on the 25th revealed that nothing has changed. NASA and Boeing confirmed that the Starliner is still not ready to schedule a return date for the 2 astronauts. During its first manned test flight, NASA's Commercial Crew Program Manager, Steve Stitch, stated, "We don't have a major announcement today regarding a return date. Starliner's return to Earth has faced multiple delays since its initially planned re-entry about a week after launch. The date was pushed to no earlier than June 18th, then to June 22nd, then June 25th, and now late July. Currently, Starliner and its crew aren't expected back until at least August. This outcome is disappointing for almost everyone, though it wasn't entirely unexpected. The issues with Starliner are serious, and perhaps they have been from the start. Honestly, while I don't want to think this way, it seems from the press conference about Starliner's first flight that NASA and Boeing might be avoiding discussing the main issues, as if trying to cover up deeper problems. It's possible that officials are worried that openly admitting the risks of the current mission might lead to more sensational news coverage, or perhaps NASA's leaders are simply trying to protect Boeing. After all, NASA plans to send more crews on the Starliner, and any sign of disappointment from the space agency could further damage public confidence in their already struggling contractor. It might be better for NASA to embrace the uncertainty instead of avoiding it. As the agency often says, the first manned flight of Starliner is a test mission, where unexpected events are to be expected. NASA believes they are well prepared to handle these challenges, but only time will tell if NASA and Boeing can step up. If they can't, they may have to rely on alternative methods to safely bring the astronauts back, and the only option would be SpaceX. If this happens, it would mark a catastrophic failure for the entire Starliner development program, potentially ending its future. Even if Starliner successfully returns, its future development is still filled with challenges and could face cancellation. But why is that? It's clear that not many Boeing officials are stepping up to defend the Starliner spacecraft. Space is just one part of Boeing's Defense, Space and Security division, which in 2023 generated 32% of the company's revenue, amounting to nearly $25 billion. However, this figure includes non-space activities such as military contracts for helicopters, fighter jets, and munitions. Meanwhile, Boeing's financial strength lies primarily in its commercial aircraft business, which brought in nearly $33 billion, or 44% of the company's revenue in 2023. Boeing has already faced significant financial challenges, particularly with its commercial planes, which have cost the company at least $32 billion since 2019 due to ongoing issues. This has been a major blow to the century-old firm. Economically, the Starliner project has shown no profit, with extended heavy losses that Boeing must cover themselves, as government funding is no longer available. Additionally, the technical problems with the Starliner are difficult for Boeing to resolve, and competition in the launch market is fierce, especially with dominant rivals like SpaceX's Dragon. These factors raise serious questions about the future of Boeing's Starliner spacecraft manufacturing niche. Overall, I believe that the Starliner program lacks a sustainable long-term future. Even if Boeing ends up abandoning the Starliner, the financial impact on the company won't be significant, especially if they complete the 6 missions outlined in the Commercial Crew contract awarded by NASA. On the other hand, NASA should recognize that Boeing may no longer be committed to competing in this space, and should instead focus on collaborating with SpaceX to further develop the Dragon spacecraft. Boeing has shown a lack of focus on their space sector, as seen in their decision to sell their stake in ULA, a joint venture in rocket manufacturing and launch services. This could be the first step, with the Starliner program possibly being the next to go. What do you think of this speculation? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. In addition to the announcement that there's still no return date for the two astronauts, the press conference on the 25th with NASA and Boeing's leadership also offered some possible explanations for Starliner's problems during this mission, including helium leaks and issues with the thrusters suddenly failing on the way to the ISS. These revelations came after Boeing and NASA spent the last few weeks investigating the root causes of the issues and planning additional tests to better understand the problem. Mark Nappy, Boeing's Commercial Crew Program Director, mentioned that at a site in New Mexico, engineers conducted extensive testing by firing the test engines more than 1,000 times. These tests were designed to replicate how the thrusters on the space-bound Starliner would have ignited. They also tested various scenarios for how the engines might perform during the spacecraft's return from space. According to Boeing, the purpose of this testing was to gain a clearer understanding of why the spacecraft's thrusters unexpectedly shut down and to assess any potential risks involved in restarting those thrusters. Officials stated that they were able to replicate the thruster deterioration experienced during flight with these ground tests, which helped them better understand the problem. The recent testing may have provided engineers with a better understanding of the root cause of the issues with the Starliner spacecraft. It appears that heat building up inside the thrusters may be causing Teflon seals to bulge, which restricts the flow of propellant. According to Mark Nappy, the testing has increased confidence in the plan to undock and return the spacecraft safely. As a result of these findings, Boeing and NASA decided to abandon plans to allow astronauts to manually fly the Starliner spacecraft during its return trip. This decision came after it was observed that some of the manual maneuvers during the ascent to the ISS put additional stress on the thrusters. Steve Stitch mentioned that while the thrusters were stressed during manual control, officials did not definitively state whether the same Starliner spacecraft that carried veteran NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams to the space station would be the one to bring them back home. Stitch also highlighted that there are valid reasons to complete the mission and bring Butch and Suni home on Starliner, although NASA has contingency options available if needed. If the Starliner does not receive approval to bring the astronauts back, the next steps will involve thoroughly reviewing the situation, said Mark Nappy. He mentioned that another critical Starliner mission management team meeting would be held to go over all the thruster data discussed. Despite the concerns, Nappy expressed confidence in the vehicle's ability to safely return the crew. Astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore arrived at the International Space Station on June 6th for what was initially expected to be a week-long mission. As of Thursday, they have been in space for around 60 days. NASA has indicated that the Starliner can remain in space for a maximum of 90 days. Meanwhile, engineers have made progress in understanding the helium leaks that affected the first leg of Starliner's journey. However, Boeing and NASA plan to conduct further testing on the vehicle while it remains in space, with some tests scheduled for this weekend, according to Steve Stitch. These tests will include firing 27 of Starliner's thrusters while it remains docked at the ISS. An analysis of components on the ground, particularly a version of the Starliner service module that has been stored at White Sands, New Mexico, for 3 years, revealed that the helium leaks might be due to seals that have degraded after exposure to propellant vapor. Nappy mentioned that the straightforward solution is to replace the seals with materials less vulnerable to degradation from propellant exposure. This change could be implemented in future Starliner missions. However, there is still work ahead to fully determine the best path forward. There is still uncertainty about whether the helium leaks on the Starliner, which has been docked at the ISS, have worsened. The service module, the part of the spacecraft affected by the helium leaks, was exposed to propellant for an extended period on the ground. This prolonged exposure could provide a worst-case scenario for understanding how badly the seals may have degraded, according to Mark Nappy. The ongoing effort to fully understand the helium leaks is one of the main reasons why NASA and Boeing have yet to announce a return date for astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore. They also haven't confirmed whether the Starliner is ready to bring them back home. Steve Stitch explained that the key factors in determining whether the Starliner is fit for the return flight are understanding the nature of the helium leaks, assessing the stability of these leaks, and determining how to manage them if they worsen. NASA and Boeing are planning a review to prepare for Starliner's undocking, which could happen as early as next week, according to Stitch. He expressed hope that everything will work out as planned.